Hey everybody, it's Mark Bouchard with Police Mentors. So today we're going to be talking about cops and trauma or PTSD. Here's why I can help you with this. First, I've been in law enforcement for 18 years. Second, I've been diagnosed with PTSD myself. Third, I'm still doing the job. Fourth, I have a master's degree studying police culture and the impacts on police officer mental health. And five, I put it into a book. I didn't write this to sell it to you. I wrote it to help you. You can find a couple of chapters already as an audiobook on this channel, or you can go to my website, which I'll put in the link, and you can download a free PDF. Like I say, I wrote it to help you. So let's dive into it. First off, PTSD. Here's why we need to talk about it. Trauma in law enforcement is real. You're going to see some crazy stuff if you go work as a cop, especially if you're working frontline police work. And it's not just danger, it's sadness, it's the death, it's the suffering of others. And those can really impact us. And those really impacted me. And no one ever taught me how to deal with that stuff. So I spent years trying to teach it to myself so that I could help other people. Next up, PTSD. There's a quote in my book on trauma or PTSD, which I cite Dr. Jodie Carrington, where I'll paraphrase her, but she says, PTSD is not a mental illness. It's a psychological injury. And the sooner we take action to get help for it, the better the outcome. I've seen lots of people where they have suffered from trauma or what might be described as PTSD, but then through seeking effective help, effective treatments, early intervention, they can actually really heal. And I would describe myself as that. I used to suffer from so many nightmares. I always relived needing to shoot people in my dreams, and it really bothered me. Now I'm doing so much better, and it's because I put in a lot of work. A lot of things that bothered me for years don't bother me in the same ways now. Again, because I got a lot of help, and there's help for you too. If that's why you've clicked on this, there's help, there's hope. That's something I needed to hear at my lowest moments. Is things can get better, and part of it is on you. You need to be willing to put in a lot of work on yourself. It's really hard, and as one of the guys I present with on this has said, the most courageous thing he ever did was ask for help. And this is someone who's been through numerous officer-involved shootings, describing asking for help as the most courageous thing ever. Now, in regards to rates of PTSD, this research used to say it was a bit lower, like 7 to 19%, and more recent research has shown significantly higher. And if you combine that with the other potential mental health diagnoses of like depression, anxiety, it actually goes up even over 50%. That's out of some research from CIPSERT. Really what that means is we're going to run into trauma in our jobs. But the key thing about that is if we can adopt healthy coping strategies, so instead of just getting drunk and not thinking about it, maybe making jokes about it, we actually go and get some help, we can reduce those rates by having healthy coping strategies. The next thing is post-traumatic growth. That's actually a key thing I focused on in my chapter, because often we can't go back to who we were. When we go through really hard experiences, those can change us, but we can grow and evolve to be an even better version of ourselves. That's what I strive to do. So you can be more empathetic, more caring. You can learn more about yourself. You can even connect more with your loved ones. That's one thing I really found, because my next point is actually how do you integrate the trauma rather than just avoid it or ignore it. For example, for me, I've seen a lot of death and suffering of others, and some of those like child sex assault, fatal next of kin notifications, fatal crashes really bothered me. But what I did is I used them and I found some sort of good in my world. So my version of good was that I would phone my parents and tell them I love them, and they're in their late 70s, and you may never get to do that one day. So making the most of that matters. Or it's telling my kids I love them every day. Just not taking for granted that tragically people do die and die unexpectedly, and that life can be really unfair. And it's choose to use it to find the good in the world that I already have. Okay, next up, treatment. There are treatment options that really work. And first off, I needed to learn that because when I went to see a psychologist, they recommended that I try something called EMDR, but I said no. I actually said, you can't make me try your voodoo BS, which was stupid because this is something that's scientifically proven, it's evidence-backed to work, that it works for a lot of people. And I've had buddies phone me and say, hey, my psychologist, is suggesting I try this. What do you think? Well, do you want to give it a try? Like, what do you have to lose? Even if it doesn't work, you can go try another thing. And there's other options. There's medication. There are lots of different treatment options. Just try something. And if that doesn't work, believe you can get better, go try something else. That brings me to my next point, which is neuroplasticity, which is a fancy way of saying your brain can and will change. So if you go see a lot of sadness, trauma, hardship, often that can really impact your brain, and that you get some say in the changes of your brain. So if you just cope by drinking alcohol, you're probably making your brain worse. But if you cope by doing healthy things, you're actively helping your brain to heal. And for me, journaling was one of those big things. I carried so much pain around some of these calls I couldn't think about for 10 years. I'd break down crying if I even thought about them. I certainly couldn't talk about them. And it wasn't time that healed. I was going to talk to a psychologist, starting to journal, getting out in nature, like connecting with others, talking about it. Those were the things that actually helped me to take that pain. And back to Dr. Jody Carrington, she describes it that pain you're carrying around, you don't have to. That you can actually take some of that and put it down in her office, and it can just sit there, and she doesn't even have to pick it up. And that really helped me to hear that and to understand it. My last point is just to take action. Do something. That's the very first point I make when I say some tools in my chapter on trauma, because I felt like a victim to my PTSD diagnosis. I went from thinking I could do anything to thinking I was worthless. And by actually just starting to be a participant in my own healing, I realized that I wasn't a victim to what was happening to me, that I had some control in my own healing process. And my life got so much better as I started putting in a lot of time and effort to get better. So leave a comment. Tell me what was the most impactful part of this video. Tell me what your experience has been with PTSD as a police officer, and tell me anything else you'd like to see in a future video. Okay, please hit like and subscribe. Thank you.